We talk about leadership. It's one of those words that's kind of thrown around. Josh Parnell, CEO of Limitless Leadership LLC, is experienced leadership coach and also part of we love this United States Air Force veteran. Something about the attention to detail with the military with over 20 years of leadership experience. Josh, are you hanging with us? Are you there?
Yeah, I was actually looking up some vacation properties in Auckland, New Zealand, because it's one of the safest places in the world, and your stolen vehicles get returned to you. I mean,
it's crazy.
Come on.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah,
it's like running a raffle there.
I have not met an angry New Zealander.
Absolutely
like people are pleasant. But Josh, what part of the country? I got to start with the basics. You calling from?
Yeah, well, first, thanks, Frank. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm calling from Houston, Texas tonight.
Nice, Houston. Not humid yet.
It's always humid in Houston.
But see, you could put a boat on water. We can only imagine that. We've got these little mini lakes here in the desert. But
yeah.
So you were part of Air Force. Thanks for your service. I was Navy. You see a lot of military really structured well in how they bring up the ranks regarding leadership. Is that a good sort of test bed and implementation of leadership, would you say?
Frank, that's a great question. During my time in the Air Force, which is over 20 years ago, so I'm dating myself, no. To answer your question, I didn't see a lot of great leadership principles being applied. It was a lot of positional leadership and a lot of telling and not so much teaching. And however, here as of late, I've learned that the military is starting to implement a lot of key leadership principles taught by folks like Jocko Willink and other folks who are kind of making waves around the leadership circuit. So it sounds like they're making some significant strides in every branch, which is an incredible thing to hear.
It is. I think, my days back, I go back to mid-'80s, Navy, Persian Gulf, Straits of Hormuz, machine gun, wooden minesweepers, stuff like that. I found like military and whatever. I'm not trying to get hate from the military, but let's be real. I checked the box off. I did what I did, and then it was your turn, not my job. Now, when you get into the higher skill echelon of, UDTs, Navy SEALs, that sort of thing, and Air Force branch spec ops, different mindset. Is this a mindset that you would recommend? Like most small business needs to get out of the weeds of the tit for tat, and true leadership could be looked at as somewhat of a spec ops. We train for everything.
Yeah, 100%. What you're describing is the opportunity to exercise some professionalism and professional maturity. We're adults, and we're not going to behave like children. We're not going to act like children. We're not going to do the tit for tat kind of thing. We're going to go through things and grow through things, and we're going to do it together. We're going to lock arms with our guys and gals, and we're going to go through some real obstacles, real challenges, and rise above the line.
What's the biggest challenge? Like we say that, like you can have a morning powwow and everybody's juiced up, ready to go, but then then it falls apart. Do you think there's a certain level of emotion that eats people up and it becomes a personal as opposed to a mission at hand?
Yeah, I do. It's why in 2020 it really changed the way leadership is approached. It went from a more transactional to a more relational approach. It went from more process to more people. Ultimately, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And as leaders, we get to create safety and trust so that we can provide clarity and direction. And if you think about it, clarity and direction, those two things, if you either left or lost any job, you likely didn't have both clarity and direction. And you may have not had either. And so it's important that we're speaking to the person, that we're serving the person. On my one-on-ones, I'm checking in with my guys and I'm asking, hey, how are you doing? How are you truly doing up here? And I'm pointing to my mind, and in here, pointing to my heart. I'm asking, how's your stress level? How's your workload? Are you overwhelmed? Are you underwhelmed? I want to find out how they're personally doing, because it's the name before the job title. It's the person before the process. And I want to make sure that I'm checking in on my guy to see that they are okay. They are emotionally stable. They are ready, willing, and able to show up and show out today. So it's very much of a people-first mentality these days.
You think a lot of people quit on that reason. Some people would think that it was money-driven or whatever, but you think it's because is that true? Is that statistically true? Are we quitting because nobody's recognizing? I mean, they see my output but I'm a human being. They don't recognize me. They just want numbers out of me.
The number one reason people leave bad jobs, they don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad leaders, but the number one reason people are leaving is because of a lack of recognition. And studies will show that 70% of employees are disengaged because they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, they don't feel recognized. And so they start looking elsewhere. They start thinking, hey, you know what? The grass is greener on the other side. And so you and I both know that, like, the grass is green where we water it. So how are we watering the grass where we're at for our team members? But they start looking elsewhere because they don't have clarity, they don't have a direction, and other employers are reaching out saying, hey, we'll provide that for you here. And then they go there, and it's not much different, unfortunately.
I got to call out my good friends, Christian Brothers. I think Christian Brothers, on a scale, as far as multi-store franchises, they do it the best. I've actually sat on stage with quite a few of great, talented Christian Brothers folks. You had a lot to do with that as a part of their culture in executing leadership. Can you give me some of the pain points? And we don't have to call out specifics, but what was the biggest challenge you saw? Let's talk scale. Some of the folks listening now is like, well, I got my tribe. They're 5 or 6. I got this. We celebrate life. But as you scale, what do you find that could be a big problem in how you truly doing when you have 55 technicians, at 4 locations, 5 locations?
Yeah, I think the focus needs to be, or really the mindset should be remembered that leadership ultimately is a full-time job. And there's a lot of folks who are high-performing team members, mastering these processes. They get promoted to a formal leadership role, but they may have not had any leadership coaching or training. And it's kind of like going from a player to a coach. And what happens is, in a lot of shops, is these coaches are now formally leading people, but the expectations, which were not necessarily set or made clear, are prompting this person to also do the jobs that they were doing as an advisor, or maybe let's call it a B-level technician before they became a A-level and a shop foreman and what have you. And so they're essentially doing multiple jobs at the same time. They're trying to lead people, and these people are having real-life issues and challenges and obstacles that we're trying to help them through. And we start losing this kind of family feel because it starts feeling more robotic. We don't, quote-unquote, have time. And I'm going to encourage everyone to recognize that we're not perhaps making the time for our team members. And we start losing sight of the fact that this is a person. It's not a process. It's a name before a job title. So I think as you scale, we have to remember that you're still making time for your greatest assets, which are your people.
And we can't forget that I was successful. I put a lot of money in the bank. Does that make me a good coach? I mean, I was successful. I put a lot of money in the bank. Do you find that exists, that you got sort of this thumping of chest because I've loaded up the bank account, therefore I'm going to be a good coach? Does that qualify somebody as a good coach?
No, it doesn't. It's really ultimately not about the money. It's about how you're making someone feel. It's about the impact you're making. What changes are you seeing? What growth and development are you identifying? And what blind spots are you helping them recognize and work through? My favorite quote, Frank, comes from Maya Angelou. It says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And so it's really not about the money. I mean, if you're good at what you do, the money will come, but it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you have a lot of money in the bank means that you were successful, because I don't know how you did it. You may have not done it, quote unquote, the right way. And I think the right way is serving people.
Some would argue, I've seen this. I've actually got hate on it. I welcome it. I'm always looking for opportunities to grow. I think everybody has something to say. But some people feel like, no. Passion isn't before skill set. I think some people get it twisted. Like, can I be passionate and develop a skill set, or do I need a skill set first and then the passion comes along because I'm acquainted with what I'm comfortable, i.e. 10,000 hour rule, right? I did this for 10,000 hours. I know this. Therefore, I'm passionate. But if I'm that newbie, the C-Tech, fella at the restaurant just getting started, I'm busting tables. I know a lot of people in the restaurant business, they bust tables. Mm-hmm. Now they're in the C-suite running organizations. Talk to me a little bit about, like, it seems to be this confusion about, well, you got to have a skill set before you're passionate. I mean, I don't believe that, but Set us straight a little bit. Passion before skill set. I mean, what's the?
Yeah. So the phrasing that I like to use is values before talent. So you're hiring values over talent, for example. And what I mean by this is talent can be taught. So I agree with you, Frank. Talent ultimately can be taught. Skill set can be taught. But when I'm talking about hiring values over talent, I'm talking about hiring your CIA team member, people who are coachable, who are intelligent, who have the right attitude. Ultimately, our attitude, not our aptitude, will determine our altitude. And so if I'm hiring for my culture, I'm hiring for values over talent because the talent can be taught.
No, that's powerful. And we're going to get to some specifics here regarding the shortage because I think it's important. And you're one of the few that has the courage, the chutzpah, however you want to pronounce that, to actually let's get this on the table and talk about it. In fact, let's just bring it up. Whether it be automotive, because right now we know, I see it directly. There's a shortage in skill set. So I believed for years there's a reason why we must be accountable as leaders. What did we do to drive this shortage? Did we lose bodies? Did people die in droves? No. Did we lose interest? No. Did we stimuli an environment that gave us lack of interest? Or Uncle Louis said, no, you don't want to do this. I did this for 30 years. Look at my hands. I worked for an outfit. They never paid me well. I barely got through. You're bringing up something. Enough of this shortage talk. Let's get down with some leadership. Are you getting reception from the industry on that?
Yeah, thankfully I am. I'm seeing a lot of positive things in the industry. You said a key word, Frank, and that's accountability. I think that to answer the question, I'm going to say three things. There's three reasons why there's a shortage. There's a lack of effective onboarding, proper training, and consistent coaching. And we're not developing our B players into A players. We're not focusing on helping people grow and develop. We're not truly serving them. There's this concept of servant leadership where, in the military, in the military, it's positional leadership. It's do as I say. It's this, you have a boss and you have an employee and the employee reports to the boss. With servant leadership, that boss becomes a leader, that employee becomes a team member, and then you're going to shift it around to where the servant leader is now serving that team member. Now, it doesn't mean that they're a servant, but it means that they're serving by pouring into them, by investing in them, by meeting with them consistently. I shared earlier that 70% of employees are disengaged at work. Conversely speaking, 80% of people will tell you that they are fully engaged when they receive meaningful feedback at least once per week. How are you showing up for your team members? You can do that through effectively onboarding them, through properly training them, through consistently coaching them. You're building and developing people so that when those people leave, because they will, because you're doing your job as a leader, you applaud their departure, and you're not having to rebuild your team. You're just simply reloading because you're pouring into and investing into every single team member.
You right now, you're listening. You working for somebody. They told you, here's the 7-step plan. This is what we expect. I have an open door policy. You heard that.
Mm-hmm.
You still left. And what I see, and I think this relates to, and it's a very good point you bring on, this whole transitional thing with COVID. I think we just, I think we got more in touch. We had no choice. We were locked up. We had to get in touch with who we were emotionally. Like, hello. Mm-hmm. My kids are at home. They're behind a computer. It was just a weird time, but there was some good that came out of that as human beings. But this is what I've been saying for 10 years. I don't want an open door. I want an open heart, man. Now, listen, Aiden is chomping at the bits. He's my youngster on the board. Aiden, you really have something to say. Go ahead. Talk to Josh.
So with that, I have worked for like 3 different companies every single time. And that was a very good point. Every single time they always said, oh, we have an open door policy. Do you know how many like workers that are onboarding? Do you realize that a lot of us don't believe the open door policy because we already know, even though that retaliation...
What's the negative? Why don't you believe that? Talk to me on that.
Because a lot of them, they'll say, oh, retaliation isn't part of our company policy. So they find other ways to retaliate towards you, no matter what it is. It could be attitude. It could be something they might have said that maybe if they're smart enough, they worded it slightly different so that the report may just be, oh, well, he might have just had an off day.
So, Josh, you find like they say open door. Of course, people that really have a leadership mindset know at the end of the day it's open heart, like open heart. But you find that the clause to open door, we said it to say it, to say it, to set it, but we created criteria up to which now people that don't even work for the company currently that may have heard on the grapevine that open door is just, it's not open door, let alone it can be an open heart to care about me.
Absolutely.
That's a problem right now, just in small business, would you say, Josh?
Yeah, I agree. Ultimately, actions speak louder than words. And someone can tell me that they have an open door policy all they want, but ultimately I have to feel safe and trust that person and vice versa. Because if I'm trying to create safety and trust as an employer for my employees, I can't provide clarity and direction. So I can get hired and hear, hey, we have an open door policy. To me, Frank, that's like saying, hey, I'm a people person, or I'm a great guy, or you can tell me who you are and what you do, but I need to see I want to see actions that speak louder than words. And the actions is this employer scheduled a one-on-one with me, has a foundational conversation with me, talks about the importance of communication here, because communication is arguably the greatest challenge across all organizations, regardless of the industry. And if I know how much this person genuinely cares about me through their actions, ultimately I'm going to start believing and trusting and feeling safe that open door policy is actually what they claim it to be.
You think we're too comfortable with the blasés and the water cooler moments, and we're not willing to, as a team, get uncomfortable? Do you find this a phenomenon that really is holding back what could be a really dang good team?
Oh, 100%. I mean, communication is truly at the root of most of the challenges. And this is not even just at work. This is even at home. I mean, we know, like, if you're in a relationship, communication is probably one of the biggest challenges that you experience on a regular basis. And I mean, as a married man, I can tell you, it is for me. It is for my wife and I. My wife's a licensed counselor. I'm a coach by profession, and we still have challenges with communication that we're regularly working through. But this is also why it's so important to hire a coach, or find a mentor, find someone who is willing to speak truth into your life, because ultimately multiple minds are better than one, and they're helping you see opportunity areas that you don't see. They're helping you identify blind spots. And I'm sorry, Frank, I know I kind of went on a tangent. Can you go back and ask the question again?
No, you didn't go on a tangent. What you really spoke to is listen, you cannot be a digit. You are not a digit. You're getting, I'm going to phrase it this way. I think we need to be pajamas in our business. Pajamas, when you go home, your wife, you're all suited up, you to transition mentally, because we're going to segue right into behavior, which is really hard, right, to change. How do we change behavior? If I come home, I'm suited up in my work pajamas, I'm transitioning into my home pajamas. How about we bring the home pajamas to work spiritually?
Yeah.
In other words, am I a different individual? Aiden, if you could go to I'm not saying there's some uniform, there's detail. I'm not trying to change the professionalism. But if I could strip you out of the garb to the corporate, what I want you to do, and you're just the human being in front of me, your reaction is what? It truly is an open heart situation, maybe.
Absolutely.
At least you're guided towards that. And Josh, I got excited because you mentioned on the home front, those of us that know, that's real deal. We can't lie to ourselves at home, can we?
No, not at all. Yeah, there's massive opportunity here, and Frank, I'll share this. And this is one thing that I want every listening audience member to hear. Poor communication is costing shop owners 18% of total salaries being paid out on an annual basis.
That's a powerful
if
number.
If you don't think that communication is a problem in your shop, that's a blind spot. It is costing shop owners significant time, effort, and energy to hire the right person to get on the right bus, to get the wrong person off the bus. On average, we're spending 7.47 hours per week losing effective communication because we're not learning how to effectively communicate with our team. And it's a challenge. It's something that I work with every single client of mine on. And thankfully, we see a lot of improvement throughout that time together.
It takes time, but I want you listening to take a moment. Josh is full time. He's not part time on this situation. He's not just in and out. There's a lot of that. YouTube coming and goings. You see it.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, for whatever reason, somebody popped out there, boom, and they're gone. You know it. You've seen it. Where did this guy go? Josh is in it long term. He's got the seasoned background. Limitless Leadership Podcast. All my podcast family, check it out. It's really designed to help specifically automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage. That's a mouthful of a whole lot of hard work. Do you find that we're lazy? People are lazy. They just want it easy. Do we have entrepreneurs? Well, let me back up because I don't think the word is entrepreneurs. Do you have small business owners that got into it for all the wrong reasons and they're just lazy? Oh, they'll get used to how I communicate. This is how I do business.
We naturally gravitate towards what we're comfortable with. And we know that growth and comfort can't coexist. So we want to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yes, to answer your question, there's a handful of small business owners who get into this business thinking one thing and quickly realizing this is not at all what I expected. Because I went from being a top performing technician to now trying to own and run my own business. But with that comes the financials. It comes the marketing. It comes the leading the people and serving the guests, not in a way that I used to. And we're wearing multiple hats, and it is so challenging. It's so overwhelming. It's so exhausting if you don't have the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus, and getting the right people in your corner too. Because it's challenging. You're going to start listening to a lot of lies that you tell yourself. You're going to start thinking one thing that may not even be true, because one of the greatest mistakes any of us can make is assuming all of our thoughts are true, and we will really let ourselves derail our progress because of our own way of thinking. Because ultimately, we're all going to be leading the most challenging person we will ever lead, which is ourselves. And we're trying to manage the most challenging, or one of the most toughest battles we're ever going to face, which is in between the years. So there's so much that goes into it. And so if you're listening and you're feeling like, hey, I'm drowning right now, this is tough, this is not what I expected, reach out to someone, find a coach, find a mentor, and interview those folks too. I mean, not everyone's going to be a right fit for you, but I can promise you that you're not alone. There's a lot of people going through this, but they're also going through this.
Give us a website, Josh.
Limitlessleadership.co. So notice it without the M. If I wanted the M, I would have had to pay about six figures. Now, I'm not ready for that, Frank, but eventually, maybe one day, we'll see.
I had to do the same thing. Somebody, well, this is over 10 years ago with the WrenchNation. Somebody like, why is it .tv? Well, because somebody got .com and they could try to get greedy with me, and I'm not going to let somebody hustle me. You can still have a format, I think, at the end of the day that people will get to know where the home address is, and you'll give them a key. They can come into your house of leadership. And you mentioned something that we're not willing to do because we're soft. That's what it is. You're soft. Some of you soft right now because you want you a little comfortable 6-7 hours. Some of you you thought you set in your business, right? You got enough to scrape by and that's okay. Look, everybody has their own goals. But some of you I gave up on going any further. Why? Why is this? You lied to yourself. You lying to yourself. You stopped. Yeah. You stopped. And I'll tell you, honestly, I've seen it. I've been in coaching groups for over 20 years. I've seen it. Some of you are broken. Your relationships are broken because it's like, I don't know how. And guess what? You're in your own way, whether it's lies to self, because you believe this is the standard. This is my comfort zone. Do you find that when we lie to ourselves, is there a change physiologically with the chemistry? Is there some science on that? Does that make us temporarily feel like it's going to be okay, and then we get to the next rotten day that's coming because we're just lying to ourselves?
Man, that's a fantastic question. I want to be completely upfront and say I don't know that I even have the, that's probably above my pay grade. But I would venture to guess that yes, there's a lot of physiological consequences, if you will, of us not being able to champion our thoughts. And what we know is that humans have up to 60,000 thoughts per day, and studies show that 80% of our thoughts are negative and 90% of our thoughts are repetitive. So it's no wonder why we regularly experience stress, and worry and doubt and concern and anxiety and fear. But we know that fear is simply false evidence appearing real, and we're always going to find evidence in the things that we believe. And this is important because what we know is that our thoughts dictate our feelings, and our feelings dictate our actions, and our actions dictate results. So if we're not achieving the results we want to achieve, let's go back to the thoughts that we're having. Start challenging those thoughts. Start questioning those thoughts. I like to say, in relation to emotional maturity, like I believe that emotional maturity is having feelings, but not letting our feelings have us. Because we know that when emotions are high, logic is low. So if I'm going to implement what I call the 3 Ps, I'm going to pause, process, and pivot. Because what's going to happen is I start thinking something, and it's a negative way of thinking, and I already recognize this, and I know that the feelings I'm experiencing they may not be real. So I start. Let me backtrack. They may not be valid. So I'm going to start challenging those thoughts. I'm going to start questioning those thoughts. So I'm going to physically remove myself from the situation if possible. So when I say pause, that's what I mean by that. I'm going to physically remove myself and just take a breath. Just pause. Now I'm going to start questioning the thoughts that I'm having. I'm going to start processing what I'm thinking. And with processing comes a new perspective. And with perspective, the way that I view things drives the way that I do things. And subsequently, I can pivot accordingly to achieve the results that are indicative of the actions that are necessary for me to excel.
Man, you just gave like probably the most powerful recipe, no matter where anybody's at in life on the ladder of what their journey is. We tend to be emotional creatures that way. Some of you say, I'm a little more logical. I don't care how logical you are. Sometimes the emotion of a situation, goings-ons, people, places, events, taps your emotion because we're not robots. And so if there's anything you could take away, and it's not just automotive service related, pause, process, pivot. That is, Josh, man, that is powerful. And we don't do enough of it. I raised my hand as a young shop owner back in 1995, loving on everybody. My motto was, I love everybody. I'll be able to make it. And then you broke. And then you miss your kid's life because you're just working like a dog for nothing. Because people, you're a politician. That's what you are. You have no clue. You're just keeping them happy. And then you're broke. But if you could just take a moment, some of you are in a situation right now where you're just a shotgun. You just want to blow everything up. Part of growth is understanding that, Josh, that's powerful. I would imagine that's like a center anchor of the mantra because we slip. Like you're teaching me on sort of the compassion and having these relationships and where it counts. And then I call you and I have that day or two or week where Joe or Jill rocked my world emotionally. Josh, I'm firing. I got to get rid of them. But if I could just take a moment and really logically just walk away, pause, jump in the sauna, and then really process that. Do you find a lot of your work is in that maybe is structured towards that behavioral change?
A lot of it is. It's a lot of mindset early on. I walk through and talk through a 3-phase process in my coaching that I do. And it begins with the discovery phase where I learn a lot about the person I'm working with, what drives them, what motivates them, what are their fears, what makes them tick. I want to know why this person thinks the way they do, why they operate the way they do. And when I have a better understanding of who I'm working with, I can customize the next phase of the program for them so I can walk through the action phase. And in the action phase, it's a lot of mindset stuff early on. Because to your point, Frank, it's a lot of emotion. It's a lot of mindset. It's a lot of heart. And then eventually we get into the coaching phase where it's leadership, it's coaching, it's training and managing. But many of us don't know how to exercise empathy. We've heard about empathy. We've heard about vulnerability. But for a lot of us, especially in this industry, a lot of male-dominated industry, we hear the word vulnerability and we think that's a weakness. But ultimately, that's a strength. We get to connect through authenticity, humility, and vulnerability. And so if I can learn how to connect, ultimately what I know, Frank, is that connection is what creates engagement, and engagement increases performance. So if I want to increase performance, I'm missing the engagement piece. I can create engagement through connection, and I can do that through exercising some authenticity, humility, vulnerability, empathy. Empathizing with someone doesn't mean that we necessarily have to experience the same situation as that person, but it does mean that I can imagine their circumstances and accept their feelings without invalidating them. And many of us are inadvertently and unintentionally invalidating those that we're leading and even our guests that we're serving because we're listening to reply instead of listening to understand. So if we can start learning how to connect, we ultimately get to create engagement and subsequently increase performance.
Yeah, that's what it's about. For more details, limitlessleadership.co, co.co. I'll have show notes in the podcast. Josh, I'm going a long format. I'm not trying to do Joe Rogan style, but we're going to wrap over some Zoom type of stuff. I want you back because I feel like an hour, and I've told our listeners for years that we need an hour just to get started.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, but I also want to make sure that we bring more value. You are high on our list to get you back because you have a lot to offer. If you own a service facility, more details, Josh Parnell, check out the podcast. Go onto the website, limitlessleadership.co. Josh, this was last minute. You're busy. Real quick, where can people find you? They want to meet you. What events you got coming up?
So the next event I have is going to be at the Tools Conference at the end of May in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Have the fortunate opportunity to be the keynote speaker there this year. So I'll be at Tools. If you're there, come find me. I know that a lot of people say that, but I mean that. I love people. I love genuinely meeting people. And so if you see me, come say hi. I'd love to meet you. If you're on social media, you can find me on most social media platforms at The Bearded Leader. It's at The Bearded Leader. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you can find me on there as well. But let's connect. I mean, I enjoy people. I enjoy connecting with people. So feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to chat anytime. Josh,
man, you're a breath of fresh air. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's always great to have talent to invigorate some direction for those that just kind of naturally live a life of giving up and they're not designing a lifestyle. You know, they're chasing money, they're chasing the wrong thing. And I believe in lifestyle. I think whatever we do, it's lifestyle. It's what we're after. And a lot of that comes with the rudiments of what you're preaching and what you're really making change for a lot of folks. I appreciate you joining Wrench Nation. We're going to get you on back real soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys.